Leinster season comes to an end and the Bulls are on their way to the grand final. Houston celebrates. They fought so hard, they were brilliant throughout. Jake White's Bulls have one match left to try and lift silverware, but it's a third season in a row with no trophy for Leinster.
Look what it means to the local crowd here. They've gone absolutely mad. The Bulls have gone mad. You have to say on the over the course of the 80 minutes they've deserved this victory. They built it up all week as the minnows against the big boys, but this is a hard place to come. A memorable day for Houston, and you see Vilko Low, what it means to those two players. They've been around a long, long time. Once again, Leinster find themselves in the position of the bridesmaids, and the Bulls now, they'll wait for 3 hours. You can be guaranteed they'll put everybody in South Africa will be behind Glasgow, looking to see if they can do another big one over an Irish side. But right now, Leinster's season is over.
Well, the Bulls were absolutely brilliant from start to finish. So physical. They stood up to a man 1-23 against Leinster, who threw everything at them, but they come up short yet again. A third season in a row, as I said, without a trophy, and the end of the road for some real stalwarts who've toiled for a decade and more. Ross Maloney, disappointing end for him. Keelan Doris gave it absolutely everything, but it is the unthinkable in many respects for Leinster, a team, a franchise for whom winning has become part of their DNA. It has been embroidered into the fabric of what Leinster do over the last 15 years. 4 in a row Pro 14 winners, and now 3 seasons in a row with nothing in the ORC, and 3 Heineken Cup final defeats. Fireworks in Pretoria, 1,400 metres above sea level. Leinster gasping for air, and they are out of oxygen. Their season is over, and the Bulls live to fight another day. They are through to the grand final. Willie Leroux, tears in his eyes, forced off injured. Let's hope he's okay for the final. A pulsating semi-final, as we expected it might be. Full throttle, so physical, and the Bulls win it by a score. And the pictures paint 1,000 words. Once again, the final score at Loftus Versfield is the Bulls 25, Leinster 20.
Thank you, Conor and Donal. So we have our first finalists. The Bulls have emerged from the last 4 into the last 2. Who will join them in next weekend's grand final? We will find out later this evening. Munster hosting Glasgow in the second semi-final. That game kicking off shortly in Limerick, 6 o'clock at Thomond Park. So, folks, a familiar story, a familiar scene. Once again, Leinster, Jamie, have failed to deliver on the big day. Yeah,
that's disappointing. When you look at the team sheets before the game, you go, surely Leinster are strong favourites for this, but, you know, credit to the Bulls. They controlled the tempo of the game. They controlled possession, territory, a really smart strategy, exploiting a lot of space on the edges, and took their chances when they came. Created some really good tries. Leinster, were good in parts, but I think where they fell down was their attack hasn't had the zip or efficiency or ruthlessness that we've seen in previous seasons, and this season I think encapsulated a lot of that. And that's the big question of what has changed and what has that meant, because I think Leinster had enough opportunities to orchestrate in times gone past that would have orchestrated probably a try. But you got to give credit to the Bulls here, because they were definitely the better team on the day and deserved the win. But it's a couple of seasons now where there's no silverware. The standard for Leinster is silverware, and the organisation has to look long and hard at themselves. Yeah, absolutely. Unthinkable, Conor said there about Leinster losing, but yet they have. Look, it was the way we thought before the game. We thought Leinster be in a fight for the first half and they'd pull strong in the second half, but Bulls grew into that game, even that 70-minute mark, 20 phases in, and Hannacum and Lowe just absolutely nailed Doris, turnover, other end of the pitch, and they just grew in confidence. And far better kicking game. Their kicking game was far better. They out-scrummed Leinster, an Irish pack. They out-scrummed them. Credit to the Bulls. That was a super performance for them. We said their defence might be the area that Leinster would get them on, and
Leinster didn't stretch them. They were bouncing off the ground. They were getting back in that defensive line. And I think it was a super Bulls performance. And credit to Jake White and his squad for what they put out there today. But serious questions need to be asked about Leinster with a star-studded team like that, with all the resources behind them to knock them away with the win.
Yeah, serious questions indeed, Donncha.
Yeah.
How are they here again?
Yeah, exactly. Fiona's nailed it. To be fair, that is the greatest upset since Offaly and Kerry. Like, this shouldn't have been a result that we're chatting about. And for me, Leinster have been left off over the last few years. They are one of the best resourced teams, not only in club rugby, but in world rugby. And they just have not delivered. And people leave them off. Media leave them off. It is all this kind of narrative goes different ways. They need to be held accountable, not only for this performance, but for the last performance over the last while. That will be damaging for Irish rugby, because now the whole of South Africa has jumped up and said, look what our Bulls team did against this national team, and we're going to play the price on the summer tour. But from a Leinster point of view, absolutely terrible performance, terrible result, and one that should really rock the foundations.
OK, well, let's get some reaction from South Africa now. We can hear from the Leinster captain, James Ryan.
At KGFA, we had to do a lot. You had to show a lot of patience. How was that for you guys out there on the field?
Yeah, it was exactly like we expected. Seriously tough game. It was test match intensity, and yeah, look, we're good at obviously to come out on the wrong side of the results. Full credit to the Bulls. I thought they were brilliant today, and best luck to them in the final.
How are those small margins just to make this result turn around for you?
Yeah, knockout rugby. It's all about small margins, I think. This team probably knows that better than most. Yeah, as I said, we're good.
It is quite disappointing, but it is a true club and one of the championship clubs. You guys should come back, and best of luck for that.
Yeah, thanks very much. And as I said, well done to the Bulls, and best luck in the final.
Thank you, Ryan.
James Ryan, not offering, I suppose, huge insight there, but quite emotional.
Look, he knows how much it meant, how much they were expected to win, the expectations of themselves as well, as opposed to everyone else outside the organisation. And like, they're going to go away. He's going back there in 3 weeks' time, probably, to face South Africa. And we said beforehand, there can't be any excuses, and they can't use the altitude. They can't use losing Gibson Park for a HIA. They have no excuse. They have to look at themselves really deeply and the structures and where they're at.
Yeah, it's a huge blow, isn't it? No excuses, as we did say beforehand. And like with what's to come in a couple of weeks' time down there, it's a huge blow for Leinster rugby and Irish rugby. Yeah,
the side's very a little bit differently in attacking and defence philosophy, but to Dunner's point, you know, the blueprint is there. You essentially, a club side is beating an international side. They've shown them how to do it. Really strong set piece, smart kicking game, and be super aggressive in defence to slow down that ruck speed, because that's a big advantage that Leinster look for. But I think for the players, look, you can see on James' faces, he very disappointed. They want to be at this point of the season. You want to be in the knockouts, and they have been consistently there, but it's incredibly frustrating for the players, for the fans, for everyone watching it, given the expectations that are around Leinster, given to, again, what Donal was saying in terms of the resources that they have at their hand. Yeah, the huge expectations, but those huge resources, and I know they're fighting on two fronts, but they have to come up with something. Yeah, and they've got it wrong. They've got it wrong again this year. It's brilliant. Jamie had the stat of using 50 players, but when it comes to cup final rugby, you need to win it, and you need to have a team. And we saw this team, star-studded with internationals, they were lost on the road because they're not used to doing it. So that is a flaw from management. Like, I wouldn't fault the effort of these players. They will always go out and give it their all, to be fair to them. But they just haven't had any experience in that. Of course, with the Irish model, we want to protect them, but sometimes it's nearly too much. And as well, to Jamie's point about the attack was blunt today, but it's been blunt all season. If you looked at parts of it, it doesn't look connected, and it doesn't look like there's ownership from key decision makers being in your 9 and 10. Actually, harsh on Gibson Park, who was outstanding again for his part today. But for me, your half-backs have to take control of how you play, and that hasn't happened yet. Yeah, and they needed something in those closing minutes. The game was still there. They needed something special or someone special to do something and stand up.
Yeah, it seemed like they were they had to go through too many phases to create anything where the Bulls got their tries easier than that. But that's credit to the Bulls' defence and asking questions. But I don't think Leinster at times went back inside to try and keep the inside defence honest. But we spoke earlier about how the space can be created on the outside, and that's where they would have been vulnerable. But Leinster just didn't expose them and didn't ask those questions of them defensively.